Hello and welcome to another Warlock's Gantlet devlog. Warlock's Gantlet is my first-person open-world action-adventure game, which hopefully will contain open-world exploration, dungeon crawling, puzzle solving, cozy fantasy atmosphere, maybe a bit scary atmosphere as well. Plenty of first-person shooting and melee action, and hopefully fun. It might also contain RPG mechanics such as skill and character trait leveling, and if it does, I shall probably refer to it as an action RPG. But that is not set in stone yet, so I won't. For now, it's an action-adventure game. In this devlog, you might hear a more clicking than usual, because I have finally reintroduced projectiles into the game, and I really like letting off volleys like this to look at the ensuing explosions. I will return to the significance of projectiles and the spectacle that they present during nighttime later in the video, because I like to sort of end on a bang, more or less. But for now, just know that there will be plenty of this whenever my trigger finger gets bored. And I hope you enjoy that, and can stomach all the extra clicking noises. The first headline for this devlog is "Less progress, more updates." I am working a full-time job now, not game development related, and for the most part, when I was making the content that I showcased in the previous devlog, I was not. There was even a 1 month when I was unemployed and making fantastic progress on the game, which was lovely, but it was not lovely to be unemployed. I'm still making progress every week on this, and at the same time, I am trying to make more updates, which should be evident that I'm succeeding at, since the iteration time between this devlog and the last is significantly shorter than the few previous ones. And I like to get more updates on projects that I follow, so I hope you are happy about this development. The second thing I want to talk about is music. Since last devlog, I have spent a decent portion of that time composing a new track, and I was quite excited for it. I rather liked it, but something became quite obvious to me, and that is that I am not good enough at creating music with sophisticated tools to make music that holds an even quality across tracks. So though I've made 2.5, arguably 3 tracks that I think are pretty good, they don't really sound as though they belong in the same context at all. So I have decided to experiment with the shall we say, pixel art approach to music. I am looking into tools that will allow me to create music with fewer and simpler sounds, aiming for a more retro feel, 80s, 90s, early 90s that is, video game style music, and hopefully limiting my options will allow me to make music that is both better in quality and has a more unified or homogeneous feel to it, so that it feels like it belongs in the same product. I'm excited about that, and I'm happy that I've made this discovery, but it feels a little bit sad that I've put so much time into music and I have essentially nothing to show for it. I mean, the experience and the wisdom is something, but just so you know why there is no music and why it will also take some time before there is any music to showcase, most likely. Other little updates include changes in graphics, like this new tree sprite, for example, and actually updating the ground tile textures to adhere to the official Warlock's Gantlet 256 color palette. I actually thought that they did that, but discovered that they hadn't been. So now the game, I think every texture in the game now adheres to the official palette, which I believe is a first. I'm pretty sure that hasn't been the case at any point in time previously. Also, while making this tree, I often switched I switched out the color palette for the leaves primarily, and it took me ages because I didn't have a good way of replacing colors at large if the color fields weren't large. Most of my previous textures have been quite small or quite simple, not a lot of detail, so it hasn't been a big deal. But I spent many hours manually replacing colors on the leaves here. Not pixel by pixel, that's not necessary. I could use flood fill, but it was still so tedious and time consuming. A little while later I decided to program in a color swap function into my pixel art editor. Programming that took about 3 minutes, and it would have saved me hours, but at least now I will save hours in future sprite and texture endeavors. You might be able to tell that some of these houses are taller than they were previously. That is a sort of halted work in progress. I was experimenting with house heights, and my intention is to experiment both with that and house types to make the towns and villages a bit more diverse. And it looks a bit strange right now because, well, these are a bit too tall, I feel, to really fit in, and especially since they don't have any windows on the upper floors at all. It looks a bit strange, to be sure. Just know that this is not the final form at all. There's plenty of work left to be done. Although that is not what I'm working on right now. So I'm afraid it will remain like this for a while. This is a kind of view that I didn't really expect to have in Warlock's Gantlet. It looks sort of like a night flight over a very inhabited area with highways and towns. It's because at one point one of the roads got partially, accidentally and partially fitted with streetlights. And I thought it looked so super cozy that I kind of had to put them in. And I really like the idea now that the roads are lit and that you might come upon a road, a long road, out in the wilderness that has lights like this. And it's your lifeline to civilization when you've been out on a long and dangerous excursion. And I think it just looks lovely. One other thing you might have noticed here is that there is quite a mismatch between the long distance light render, which are these orangey roundish blobs, and the near light. I am working on making that transition and smoother and reduce the contrast between the two, both in color and intensity. That's because I've worked a lot on the lights recently, but primarily the near distance rendering of them. Before we get into the projectiles in earnest, I have a sort of announcement to make. That announcement is concerning something which I have given the working title Postman's Gantlet. The reason, or the background here, is that I often think about game design, very often. Most of the time I think about it in relation to Warlock's Gantlet. But I also think about other games I could make, and especially other games I could make with the same technology I'm making here, with this engine and these mechanics. Because I thought, I've spent a lot of time working on this, and it would be neat to be able to make get a few games out of this stuff. Most of my ideas are different enough from Warlock's Gantlet that I just say, well, if I'm gonna make those, it'll be after I've made this game. because there's, making them would be a completely different endeavor, completely different assets and such. But the idea for Postman's Gantlet, which will very likely not be its final title, is essentially a pure subset of Warlock's Gantlet. It'll take place in the same world, with same assets, same mechanics, largely. And the main difference is that it's just it's linear. It's not an open world, it's kind of a string of small open worlds and dungeons. Think of them as levels. When I say small open world, I mean like maybe 1 square kilometer, which is in fact more or less what this map is. This map is just for debugging purposes. But about the size of this place. And it is your task to make your way from one end, like one corner, to the opposite corner, in the case of an outdoor map. And in the case of a dungeon, just make your way through it from one entrance to another. The overarching storyline or reason for doing this is that you are a messenger, thus postman, and you are tasked with delivering a very important message to an army which is on campaign in extremely hostile territory, which is why the game gets more difficult with every level. The idea is, it's a quite small game in many ways, and as I say, it will consist of just a subset of the mechanics I make for Warlock's Gantlet. The focus will be on action and survival through fights, not exploration, not puzzles, and it certainly won't be open world. So in my mind, this is something that will essentially materialize as I work on Warlock's Gantlet. And with, I'd say, around 90-95% certainty, this is a game that I will make along the way. So I hope you're a little bit excited for that, especially if you look forward to the more actiony aspects of this game. That'll focus on it. And another thing I'm excited for about that is that it embraces the challenge-based and speedrun-based features that I put in the Warlock's Gantlet demo, which you can still experience on Steam. I've not had a lot of engagement with people through that, but I had some engagement, and very enthusiastic engagement. I liked that. So I look forward to having a game that is kind of built in a way that is welcoming, or that allows me to put in challenge-based gameplay and speedrun-based gameplay as part of the product. Because it was a lot of fun to see people optimize runs through some of the maps in the demo, try to break times, kill all the enemies, find all the secrets, stuff like that. So, there you go. A sort of a new game announcement. I hope it's exciting. Now, let's talk about projectiles. I'm a bit excited for these, for good reason. The engine that I'm building here is called Oathbreaker, and I am re-implementing it, or porting it to a new paradigm, as I detailed in the last devlog. So that means I'm also re-implementing most of the mechanics that existed then. And projectiles are central to interaction in this engine. When you try to open a door or enter a shop or search a wall or something like that, your character shoots an invisible projectile, which travels, about arm's length, appropriately. And if it hits something that can be interacted with, that is what triggers said interaction. So the projectiles are not only good for shooting, but they are key to numerous other things that I want to build next. And I also use projectiles for melee attacks, which I will talk more about when I have re-implemented melee attacks. This ties directly into what I'm working on next. The next things up are the monsters, the first monsters And in the last devlog I showed you a few pictures of of liches and their new sprite, you know, sort of hanging around. But those were just instantiated with a sprite. They didn't move and they didn't have physical presence. I am right now working on the code for collision with other entities, not just with terrain. And that includes projectiles, of course, collisions between monsters and NPCs and projectiles and the character itself, so that we can bump into them and shoot them and they can shoot us, hopefully. And the next thing up after that is shops, because I need the projectiles to interact with the shop door, and once I have that, then as you've seen in other devlogs, hopefully, I do have a shop implemented in code, so I'm really looking forward to porting that to this version of the engine and start trading in these in these worlds, buying weapons and armor and such. Now, the most spectacular thing I worked on since last devlog is definitely these explosions, well, the projectiles and the explosions that follow. And that is best showcased at night, so let's fast forward time a bit and show that. Now for the finale of the video, the fireworks, as it were. Because I have variable light intensity now, I can make it so that the explosion that happens once a projectile hits is more brilliant than, more luminous than the fireball, or the projectile itself. And I think it looks pretty spectacular. I really enjoy casting these projectiles or spells around the world and just kind of see what happens when the light is cast onto the geometry. So I'm just going to fly around a bit and do that. Mostly quietly, perhaps chatting a bit about the graphics. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, one thing I can say is about the projectiles and the explosions. The sprites for both are currently just grayscale sprites. And I made it like that because I thought they would pick up the light from that is emitted by the light in the entity and the explosion. Which is true, it looks all right at night. But as you probably saw before, in the daytime, it can look almost anemic color-wise. And so I plan to color the explosions primarily, but possibly also the projectile sprites in multiple different colors. The fact that these have all different colors is just because I cycle through a color array when I shoot. This is not, indicative of what your projectiles will look like in the game. There will certainly be different color projectiles, but that will be based on what type they are. What kind of spell are you shooting? What kind of projectile? They will have different colors, but you won't be shooting. Well, I'm not going to say definitely that you won't, but the basic projectiles will not be rainbow colored like this. As cool as that is. Maybe some spectacular spell will have that effect. This is pretty cool, shooting into the dark and revealing the geometry by the light of explosions alone. It's quite interesting. Well, I think so. Long distance looks different. I think some of these will, yes. Indeed. Boom. Actually, I think shooting over the hills like this is some of the most spectacular stuff you can do. Although rainbow bombing the town is certainly also quite appealing. Yeah, so this is the end of the video for now. Although this is certainly not the last you see of these types of fireworks. Not at all. Oh, that was cool. That's it, I think. I hope you have a good day and look forward to the next devlog. See you soon.